enriching conversation with me and the wonderful Kevin. Apologies for slight tech issues. I believe I'm not going to blame Kevin for it. It's probably on my side because I'm on a Greek island and the Wi-Fi, apparently when there's a gust of wind, struggles. So hopefully there'll be no more gusts of wind as we go through this conversation. I'm personally really, really excited. I've known of Kevin for a very long time. He is someone with a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge. And so I'm very, very much looking forward to hearing everything he has to say and to share with us. Just give me a quick yes in the chat, everybody, if you can hear us, if you can see us. Hello, Annette, lovely to see you. Hello, Kerry, Esperanza, Becky, Karen, Victoria, Wayne, lovely to see you all. Yes, I'm not going to introduce Kevin in terms of give you a spiel about him. I'm going to let him do that himself. I tend to find that people do a better job of introducing themselves than I do. So Kevin, just tell us who you are. What you're about, anything you care to share with us, just to kind of introduce you to the wonderful star trading community.
Well, that's great. Thank you for the invitation anyway. So I'm Kevin Whelan, founder of a company called Wealthbuilders, which is really passionate about two things. One is helping people become completely financially independent of the need to be in a business, need to work, need to have anything. Wealth is all about certainty. A very uncertain world, whether it's tech, whether it's politics, whatever it is. And the other end of the spectrum is I meet a lot of people, check out the wizened expression of the aged man now with many years of experience. 95% of the inheritance tax that's paid by unprepared families can be avoided. So I focus, with working with the older people to try and help them actually pay more attention to where the wealth is being built and how to avoid that tax. But at the same time, my team helped to build wealth for people, how to create recurring income streams and multiple streams of recurring income. And we love the idea that options and trading is a real strong suit to play in that one. So thank you for adding my wider knowledge into the context. That speaks volumes about you as well.
Yeah, we want to see everybody do as well as they possibly can. And everyone in the chat, just put the word up if you just had your ears perk up at the idea of the fact that maybe you don't have to pay as much in inheritance tax as you thought you might have to. 95% of people paying tax that they maybe don't have to. We love that, especially because in the UK, our students in the UK make tax-free profits on their trading. So making sure that that stays tax-free, even beyond their living years, shall we say, so past that point, and when we pass that on to our loved ones, sounds very, very interesting indeed. So how did you end up getting...
Sometimes affects the parents, particularly if you've got younger people. It's as I said, the inheritance tax is now $1 billion a month coming into the exchequer, which is money basically taken from families' wealth. And the tax is going to be paid within 6 months of death. So not to focus on the negative, but the whole point about that is it can be so easily avoided. How I got into it, what do you think was the question? Yeah, it was the flip of that. My father died at 46. Unfortunately, collapsed and died on a North Sea oil rig. And he had a great business, He was like an agent before football agents. He was an agent for bringing welders and workers and other people from the shipyards in Newcastle, which is where my accent is from. Newcastle upon Tyne, that is, not Newcastle, Australia. And as a result, he was doing really, really well. Then unfortunately, he died. And with no business succession plan, with no wealth plan to speak of, really just the idea of trading and working, and no will, no life cover to pay the mortgage. At 46, he thought, nothing's going to happen to me.
Well, you would. 46 is young.
46 is very young. And as a result of that, my family went backwards when they should have went forwards. And because I was genetically cut from the same cloth as my father, I thought, geez, if I go at 46, I need a plan.
Yeah.
So at 28, I created a plan. And although there were can you believe it? There was no internet then. There were no books, not even Kiyosaki's book. There was no book. So I had to create my own plan, which in the end I call pillars of wealth. And there are 7 and only 7 ways to build wealth. And I crafted and created those gradually over 15 years and became completely financially set for life at 45, which is a year before he died. And now I pass that knowledge on because most people now can do it in 4 or 5 years. It took me 15. And that's what we do, is we teach people how to become completely wealthy, set for life, set for their children's lives, within about 5 years, typically it takes.
Yeah, that's amazing. And we are all about legacy and impact. And that's exactly how building true wealth, sustainable wealth. And I think we teach people how to trade. And so we love seeing our students become successful. But as they grow that wealth, I always say there's kind of multiple skills in the wealth journey. Number one is figuring out how to make it. Number two is figuring out how to keep it. Number three is figuring out how to protect it and pass it on. So there's these different layers of.
If you don't mind, I'll add another one,
Yeah.
which is the skill needed for the recipients of wealth are equally important. And I think if you look at why there's the biggest wealth transfer of generations ever coming now, it's because the silent generation, the people who lived through the war, are not passing on the wisdom, the knowledge, the involvement to the next generation. And there's an adage which has probably been heard by you and many others, shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations, which essentially means that the founders build the wealth, somebody enjoys the wealth, and the 3rd generation squander the wealth. And that's so true. And I guess the same statistic is 95% of all wealth is dissipated within 3 generations. And I'm not going to let that happen. So I've created a plan to avoid that. And part of that is teaching the next generation stewardship and wisdom with documents, with values, which we call the family charter, which brings them in to the wealth discussion, rather than mum and dad die and all of a sudden they've got a mess to organize or to sort and tax to pay within 6 months, and they've no idea what they're going to sell. And then when they have to sell the assets they do have to sell in the end, they're selling them at a fire sale and almost really undoing so much of the hard work that was put in by the original founders to get great value. They're now losing incredible amounts of value. So it's not the tax that has to be paid, it's the lack of wisdom, lack of confidence that's passed on. So I'll add to your 3 eloquently stated by you, just that 4th one.
Yeah, I really like that. And I think that is something we notice and we see, and that's why the adage is there. Do you think and I really like what you said about pulling them into that wealth journey, that wealth creation, that wealth understanding. But do you think there is maybe particular values, you mentioned the word values, particular beliefs or particular mindset that fails to get passed on? Is there maybe like 2 or 3 key beliefs that you think people need to pass on to future generations that enables that wealth to not just disappear in 2 or 3 generations, but to be maintained and to be built upon?
Yeah, it's a good question. And the way I would answer that is, every time we engage with anyone within the Wealth Builder community, we have them imagine there's a portrait on the wall, and that's you. And it's 150 years from now. And we want your family and the people you've not yet met to be looking up and toasting you with a glass to say, well done, Kev, or well done, Lewis, whoever you are, well done. Because you were the pioneers of the family's long-term wealth. So in other words, we crystallize that by naming it. So what is the name of your family's wealth? And we give it a structure, like a business has a structure. And we have 90-day board meetings to ensure the wealth continues to grow, continues to be protected, continues to be passed on. And then, of course, the key is that the next generation are absorbing that wisdom in a way. And there are so many ways to do that. I'll touch on 1 or 2 if we get a chance. But the principle is, imagine your wealth is like a tree and you're planting it for future generations. So don't think about it as just what you have and what you build. Think about that 150-year journey.
I think that's brilliant. And I think having that vision of what the point of it is, right? Because what is the point of creating that wealth? What is the point of being able to pass it on to future generations? Is there a point, this is where my brain goes to. So I think, okay, roll on 4 or 5 generations. We've got big family unit. Maybe there's 50 people in the family. Who do you choose to decide on what happens to that money? If you're having a 90-day rolling board meeting, who gets to decide what happens to that wealth?
Well, if you think about a business again, that structure, a business always has directors, and directors have different roles. And by creating a family structure, then you create roles within that. And sometimes, the role can be an independent trustee who's appointed where there are potential conflicts, because with blended families, when all families get on well, that longevity can be undermined by the relationship breakdown. But of course, the starting point, if you're the pioneer, you're the founder of your own family's wealth, is to start to break down those challenges early on. But we would always consider the appointment of an independent trustee. So if something doesn't quite gel, if people cannot agree, somebody else trusted by the family, voted by the family, appointed and confirmed by the family, then that enables that independence to continue.
That is really, really smart. And like you said, it's very much like how a business would operate, right? If you have multiple business owners, how do they solve disagreements? They can go to outside, selected, impartial, non-blood related, less emotional about the decisions they're making as well.
Exactly right.
So let's put it back from, say, 150 years down the line, and let's put it right into the present day. What are some of the very clear, obvious mistakes or things that people miss out in this wealth creation structure, wealth building structure, that you could share with us that are very good starting points to think about?
Okay. I think, first of all, other than the concept of the reason why, I think the principle is not to over concentrate in a single asset. Because when I gave you my definition of wealth, which is certainty in an uncertain world, I mean certainty of income. I mean, we live our life by spending money, whether it's in Greece, whether it's in the UK, wherever we are, we're spending money consistently to live. And wherever you spend and choose to spend your life, that's not relevant to me for the purposes of your question. It's what's the income. And the more streams of income that you have independently flowing into your life, which work in different cycles, they work in different economies, they work in different tax treatments, then the greater your diversification, but built conscientiously, purposefully, intentionally, then you can create what we would call the financially bulletproof life that we call the family wealth fortress. Whatever life or taxes can throw at you, wherever you decide to live, you've given yourself the maximum amount of safety and protection by having multiple streams, which is why, we see a lot of people invest in a certain asset like property. And we saw the collapse of the problem with that in 2008. We've seen stock market crashes before. All sorts of reasons why a single asset, like having a business with a single company, might look great to be the supplier to big company A, but if big company A get taken over by big company B and they kick you out, then you've lost your business. So I think that diversification, which is where the idea came from, of the 7 pillars, as I call them, hence the logo of Wealthbuilders, to encourage people to start doing that slowly, not knee-jerk their way to find 7, but to work on 2 at the same time, and then lock down your safety net, then build a 3rd one, then build a 4th one, and that's the way. And also it means the family. If you've got a family of different dynamics, different ways of thinking, different ways of learning, you could have one asset that somebody gravitates to, but another asset they don't at all. So the more assets you've got, the more you can start to create roles for them within those as well.
I think especially as the family does grow, I think it allows more space for people to focus on their passions, right? So I invest in property. I hate it with a passion. I do not enjoy it whatsoever, but I believe in it and what it can do. And when it does work well, it can work very well for people. So having a member of my family take that over would be great, because I wouldn't have to then be involved in that process. So I really love that. And by the way, I'm loving the logo as well, because it's akin to the Parthenon in Greece, which is where some of our, which has lasted for many, many years. and some of our star trading gang were over here in Greece a few weeks ago, and we got to have a nice meal looking at it. So it's very akin to that. It's very nice memories for us here. And I think,
Okay, that's great.
again, talking about trading as one of our, for obviously a lot of our guys, it's either their second income stream, second investment vehicle. A lot of people invest in property, or they have a business and they're using trading to diversify, or it's their primary vehicle for creating wealth, because within our style it's diversified. We can make money as markets go up, we can make money as they go down, we can make money in different market conditions as well. So I'm loving hearing you talk about these multiple streams of income. Do you think there is a better time, like maybe a particular income bracket from your trading or from your investments or from your job income, where it makes sense to diversify? Or are you kind of saying start diversifying as early as possible, even if you're starting small?
Yeah, good question again. Okay, so there are 2 milestones on the journey we suggest for people when they're building wealth. One is, what's the level of income you need to be secure, to pay all your bills? Nothing gets left out, everything is paid for. What's that number? Consider that. Doesn't matter what the number is, everybody's number is different. And what's the number that you'd be set for life? Right? The number that would give you absolutely everything. No questions asked. There's more money coming in each month than you could possibly spend. And what's that number?
I'm pretty
And
good at
then
spending, Kevin, so it might be quite a high number.
it doesn't matter what the number is, that's absolutely fine. But once you've arrived at those numbers, which are deeply individual, my suggestion for most people is focus your way to security, diversify your way to wealth. So you focus to get to a place where you know that the activity that you've chosen, the pillar you've chosen, will give you what you need, whether it's X thousand a month, whatever the figure is, all your bills paid. Because when all your bills are paid, you've got the freedom not to have to do what you were previously doing in order to make the first part of the journey work. And that extra time freedom, coupled with the money freedom and the intelligence that you've applied, allows you to start thinking about those other pillars that would be more relevant for you.
I've noticed this, and I noticed it in my own life when I was going through this journey. But when people do that, they start creating wealth outside of a high time commitment income stream, like a job, especially a high pressured, high paid job. They almost get a little bit lost. They don't quite know what to do with that time. And then they can start doing too many different things, again, rather than focusing on the next one. So when people reach that stage, what's kind of your advice to them at that point?
Well, each individual pillar has its own kind of combination. I call it being fit for each pillar. So F, what are your finances? I, what are you deeply interested in? I can tell, for example, you're not deeply interested in property, but it's a diversify. And T, what is the time commitment you want to give to that? And then once you start to almost have a conversation with someone who's got the experience of many pillars, they can help you choose the most appropriate for you. And what I've found to be the case is almost always when people are becoming wealthy, their original choice is not the choice that they enjoy the most over time. So I think it's a combination of understanding all 7. And I've got a book they can have for free, called The 7 Pillars of Wealth. Just make it available to you, which describes what the 7 are, with no axe to grind, because they're just economic ideas that you can use. But I suggest being involved in a community or finding a buddy or an accountability coach, so somebody can help you when you're feeling, sometimes wealth building can be quite isolating. You can be doing it on your own. Maybe you don't have a partner supporting you. Maybe you don't have a community that supports you. Sounds like you've created a wonderful community, particularly if they're coming to some amazing places like Greece or Athens to kind of work together. But having a coach or somebody to hold you accountable, to help you understand how that individual pillar works, because the challenge for most people is building more pillars is starting from scratch when they don't really understand how that pillar works. So the best thing to do is learn from somebody who's already doing it. And that only comes from relationship. It doesn't come from the DIY approach I took, from 1989 onwards. It comes from the process of getting intellectual economic shortcuts and enjoying a journey best shared with others and trying to do it on your own.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with that. Obviously, I'm a big believer in education and mentorship for helping speed up that journey. And like I said, it took you over 10 years to get to that point, and now you're saying you can help people get there in just 5 years, which is incredible.
2015. So
Yeah.
you can triple accelerate that with the lessons that have been learned. And I've got a CAT scan brain, Lewis, and I can get the financial facts from anybody, and within half an hour can diagnose what they should be doing, which they're not going to be able to see for themselves because of the sheer length of time that I've spent, not just building wealth for myself, but helping other people choose the right path for their own journey.
Yeah, I think we noticed that with our mentors in Star Trading because of their experience and looking at so many people's trading, we again can very quickly pick up on, oh, we think you're thinking about it, and it's not just you've done something technically wrong. We can understand why they've made that technical error based on what we know the kind of thinking is that goes into making that error, which means we can get people trading live in 2 months from a point of knowing absolutely nothing. Kavita says, as a daughter from immigrant parents, my parents taught me to work hard ethic, and they installed in me having a second income. They worked in factories but taught music one-to-one as part of their second income. I love that, Kavita, right? And even more so now, right? The gig economy is such a big thing because people are realizing their main one income doesn't really go very far anymore, especially with the way that we get taxed in the UK. And Karen says, I only recently discovered the 60% tax trap and I'm now paying more into my company pension to ensure more of my hard-earned salary stays with me. Exactly, Karen. That's a brilliant, simple step.
Well, definitely taxes are, there are a number of taxes, and it's probably worth pointing out, not just the names of taxes, I'm not trying to be boring, but certainly, the principle behind what we do is to minimize taxes in all areas. And the main ones that affect your income are income tax and corporation tax if you're in business, and then the inheritance tax on the other end. But the one thing that is often overlooked by so many people, and I'm sure your own audience will find this out for themselves, is the hidden tax of fees. So much is when so many people are just investing their money blindly in some kind of default fund under the stewardship, or not really, of a financial institution who's taking a part of their money, or in some cases a significant part, and not really adding any value. I think there's a tax there. So the tax of delegation turning into abdication, the tax of not paying attention. And this is exactly the same tax that affects inheritance. No inheritance tax needs to be paid, but it's paid because the parents didn't pay attention, and it's the kids that end up picking up the tab. But at least with investing, you can choose. You can look at the fees your company's charging you, and you can take control yourself and look in investing in the market, including, we've created a pension for people that they can use if they've got a limited company, and they can trade with that. They can actually use their own pension money and get tax relief to trade, which means they're getting a discount on every trade. And that's called a SAS, or a small self-administered scheme. And we created one specifically for trading, which we call a SAS Lite, which is the cheapest SAS of all because it's not getting involved in property and business and intellectual property and other pillars that I refer to. It's just a simpler way. Definitely would be something perhaps sharing with you on another day as to how anybody who's got a company or a company in the making could turn their pension money into money they can actively trade and create that value and keep the cost down at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. Comment from Tara here. What's your opinion on using AI to build some of the pillars? Tara attended an AI summit last month and discovered that people are creating AI agents based on themselves to claw back time during the day. There's always an AI question nowadays.
Well, there's always an AI question, but AI is a tool, and and it's a form of leverage, and you can't build wealth without leverage. And if I gave you mentioned a moment ago about being financially fit, finance, interest, and time, if you can use the internet, you can use AI, you can use a tool to accelerate your learning. The challenge is, though, I mean, if you look at what AI has done for most investing, it's channeling more and more assets into cap-weighted indexes, which not necessarily the ideal investment even for passive people, because then there's no equal balance. There's just millions and billions and even more going into Tesla and Apple and so on, not necessarily diversifying. So AI can be a great tool if used by an intelligent person, but garbage in, garbage out, that sometimes can be the case.
And I think sometimes people, like you said, delegation versus abdication, people abdicate to AI, and it's not necessarily the best thing to do. I still believe people should know and be empowered with what that AI should be doing.
I agree with you, 100%.
Totally agree with that. We do have a poll as well that we want to share. I'm just conscious of time, so I'm going to share the poll from Kevin, which is a very simple poll. Someone's going to share it. So would you like our free wealth building resources? So if you like what Kevin's been sharing, you like the idea of it, which I'm sure pretty much everybody does, because it's fascinating stuff, and I think really, really important, particularly nowadays. And then you've got two options there. I love it when both options are a yes. Yes, send me the resources, and yes, send me the resources and arrange a call if you'd like to speak to someone in Kevin's team about how to best make this work for you as well.
Yeah, let me mention just one or two of the resources. So certainly the 7 pillars of wealth, which explains all of the 7 ways to build wealth. And by the way, and I'll throw a challenge out to you as well, that I've been doing the teaching for 20 years. And when I wrote the book, I haven't found the 8th pillar. So there's the 8th wonder of the world, but I haven't found the 8th pillar of the world. So if any one of your team can help me find it, then a fine case of champagne would head in their direction. So you definitely want to get the book. The second is some more information about SaaS. So everybody's got a pension. If you'd like to turn your pension into an asset you can own and control and certainly trade options, that would be something to get. And if you've already built up and you're older and you want to know how to minimize inheritance tax, then we've got resources on that as well. So all ends of the spectrum. And given sort of my experience and age, I think I've got the right to be able to help at all levels. So looking forward to sharing what I can with you and with your audience. And by the way, just follow me on LinkedIn as well. I love connecting with people on LinkedIn. And if anybody connects with me, I give myself a duty of obligation to help them personally. So just reach out, find me, Kevin Whelan on LinkedIn, and just reach out, and I'll do anything I can to be of value to you. That's I'm too old and ugly to worry about that now. I don't need anybody's money, really don't. But if I can help, I'll be delighted to do so.
And well, Toshi, a member of Kevin's team, has just put a link in the chat for everyone to grab those resources, and also a link in the chat to connect with Kevin on LinkedIn as well. So highly recommend you do that. So we've come to the end of our time here, but Kevin, thank you so much. Everyone in the chat, just give Kevin a big thank you. Make sure you do grab those resources, and you do connect with Kevin as well. Tara says she really enjoyed your book as well. So we've got someone who's already read it, which is brilliant. Already got a hold of that book, which is great. Yes, I think a follow-up one of these would be pretty cool, where we can particularly talk about the pension side of things. Give me a quick yes in the chat, everyone, if you think that would be helpful. If we bring Kevin back in maybe a few months' time for round 2, Emma's shouting yes at me, so that's good. And we can look at some pension stuff more specifically, which would be great. So lovely. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Kevin, thank you for spending time with us, and for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge, and for being willing for there to be more to come as well. So thank you very much, everybody. We will speak to you very soon. Just so you know, when I end the session, it kicks us all out. I don't know why it does it. I don't know how to stop it. So Kevin, I'm not just cutting you off. It just will automatically shut everything
thanks for
down.
the invitation, and thank you for listening in, and hopefully I can add some value sometime in the next few years as you build your wealth, and hopefully keep it and pass it on to the next generation too.
We love the sound of that. Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, everybody. I'll speak to you all soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.